Welcome to Leadership Reimagined, where game changing conversations are reshaping the world of work. I'm Janice Ellis, CEO and founder of Ella Group, executive search advisors, pioneers in redefining executive search through our unwavering commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Today on Leadership Reimagined, our topic is Reimagining Hollywood, a journey into gender equality. And I am delighted to welcome Madeline Di Nonno, the president and CEO of the Geena Davis Institute on Gender in Media, the only global research driven advocacy organization working within the entertainment and media industry to create gender balance, foster inclusion, and impede bias and stereotyping in family entertainment media. Madeline is an executive producer on the Emmy nominated People's Choice and Gracie Award winning television series Mission Unstoppable, and the Gracie Award winning feature film documentary This Changes Everything. Previously, she served in a number of executive positions. She is also a U.S. State Department speaker specialist and a public speaker and moderator at global conferences, corporations, government organizations such as the London Film Festival, Sundance Film Festival, the White House, and the United Nations. Madeline has been featured in global media outlets such as Forbes, Good Morning America, The Guardian, Huffington Post, The New York Times, The Washington Post, Vanity Fair, and Variety. Madeline, you have been very busy, and I know that you've got some new news and breaking news for us today. So, welcome to Leadership Reimagined. I can't wait to hear what's going on today in your life.
Well, thank you so much, Janice. And we are such big fans of yours and what you've been doing, everything that you've been doing to advocate for women's leadership. So we're having a fangirl moment here. But
Yeah.
yes, two things happened this morning. My goodness. So, first of all, Geena was invited to participate in a lighthearted video with other former fictional presidents, giving some advice, just some advice for President Biden as he goes into the address tonight. And it's very fun, and it's on at POTUS. And Geena is along with Michael Douglas and Morgan Freeman and Bill Pullman. And it's very, very fun, getting a lot of traction. And then also, we just released a the first ever study of its kind, and it's looking at cultural portrayals of motherhood on TV with the idea of rewriting motherhood. And we're so privilege that Moms First and the Archwell Foundation supported the release of this study, and it's just hitting this morning. And I believe the Duchess of Sussex is speaking at South by Southwest. And we have a big virtual event next week to present the study, which of course we'd invite you to attend virtually. So it's about how does TV represent moms and what should we see? So it's a big news day for the Geena Davis Institute.
Well, you have been doing such great work. And, I've followed you for years and Gina, and as the only organization that does this research in terms of how do women show up in the media, it's so important. And I remember being at one of your events where Gina spoke and she said, look at the people crossing the street and, in the movies, there's so many men, very few women. And for young girls to see this, that's not good, right? In terms of where are women in society. So, congratulations on everything you're doing and have done in the past. So, take us back to the genesis of the Institute, its mission, and how you got involved.
It was one of those things where I think we've all had pivots. We've all rewired. And I was very, very lucky to achieve a certain level of success on the corporate side. And two things happened. One, and we've all experienced this, it just didn't turn out to be the right thing, the right job. And also, personally, one of my closest friends died very unexpectedly right before her 50th birthday. And a few days before she passed, she called me, and I was literally in New York, and she was just so upset about a business situation that happened. And this is someone who wanted to pivot and go in a different direction, and she never had that chance. And so it was kind of the perfect storm for me because I knew I was going to step aside from this other opportunity. And then with her passing, I thought, hmm, maybe I need to take a pause. And the thought bubble, as silly as it may sound, was, could I use my power for good? Now, I have to preface that I still have to work, okay? I'm not a trust
Right.
fund baby. And so I went on a quest, and I started reaching out to other executives in the entertainment industry that had made the transition from for profit in entertainment to not for profit. And that's what led me on the journey. And in parallel to that, Gina had started the Institute accidentally out of her observations when she was watching programming with her daughter, who was a toddler at the time, and decided she wanted the data because she didn't see a lot of female characters in any of the things she was showing her daughter. And in speaking to industry leaders and friends and etc., she thought, no one is seeing this disparity. I need to get the data. So she, uh, mounted a campaign, raised a boatload of money all by herself, and then wound up conducting the first ever study of its kind. So after she got this whole thing going, she thought, well, I kind of need somebody to run this and make my vision a reality. And through a meeting, that's how we came together. And seriously, if you when you ask her this, she'll answer it this way. After, chat, ideas, I said, well, what do you want? She said, well, I want world domination. I said, okay. And the first thing that happened, it was like February of 2010. Gina had the opportunity to give a closing keynote at the United Nations Economic Council Summit, where former President Clinton had spoken the year before. And I said, well, you wanted world domination.
She wanted world domination. She got it.
She got it.
That's amazing. And so then it unfolded from there with other people following, and you with your corporate experience out of Hallmark and ABC, you knew what needed to be done in terms of really helping her roll this out and make it even bigger than she had dreamed, correct?
Yes, yes, and we have a wonderful team, that works with us, and wonderful board of directors, but yes, that's how kind of the whole thing started and got started, and we've been building momentum ever since, and this year marks our 20th anniversary.
That's amazing. So in 2019 and 2020, the Geena Davis Institute achieved two of its primary mission goals, right? As I understand it, one was achieving gender parity for female lead characters in the top 100 largest grossing family films. And secondly, being the top Nielsen rated children's television programming. Those are pretty audacious goals that were achieved.
So there's a few things to unpack with that. I mean, our theory of change has always been provide data to allow people to make informed business decisions. And primarily, we knew that when it came to on-screen representation, that it was largely due to unconscious bias. And that's where having the data and saying, by the way, did you know there's a 3-to-1 ratio of male characters to female characters and etc., that nobody knew it. Absolutely nobody ever noticed that. Now, if you would have asked them, well, do you realize that there's so few female directors and writers? Everybody for hundreds of years, since the beginning of the entertainment industry, has known how dire it is for women behind the camera, but nobody knew this disparity on screen. So, so by pointing it out with the data, it allowed us to put that information in the hands of the very people who were writing and producing and directing and greenlighting, projects. And when you think about on screen, it's a keystroke. It can be fixed overnight. versus when you think about a lot of the issues that you deal with in terms of women on corporate boards and women in the CO suite. I mean, these things have been glacial. But in the make believe world, overnight, you can have an abundance of female characters on screen.
Yeah, I wish I could change the situation in the C-suite and in the boardroom. We've got less than 10% of the S&P 500 companies are run by women, and men hold 66% of the board seats. I wish I could, change that with a stroke of my pen and change the numbers as you can by putting more people on screen. So has that continued in terms of with more women and gender parity for female lead characters? Is that still continuing and for children's programming as well?
So, in the TV realm, in our last study, which we released in September, which we'll release again this coming September, in terms of the programming that children are watching, yes, we've been at gender parity. But what we did last year for the first time is we separated what children are watching versus what is being made for children. And we thought, well, with new things, that there should be an overabundance of gender parity. But what we found is that it was more male skewed. However, there was another interesting data point. So, most of the programming that's being made for young children is animation. And what we found is that in the animation itself, when there was a female character, that was kind of human like. Uh, it was 50-50. We were at gender parity. But when it was a non human, a tree, a mushroom, an animal, the default was a male character. And so
Oh,
we've been kind of
interesting.
unpacking that, right? So
Yeah.
so the good news is there was a very conscious effort that if there was an animated female character, that it was gender parity. So we are hitting that. Now, on the film side, we made a decision with the pandemic and the strike, we put our film study on hold for a few years. And that was because, in speaking to our major studio partners, we said, look, we believe that your film slates have been completely disrupted and derailed. And we believe that it would be harmful for the Institute to produce a report on film when it's not apples to apples. And they agreed, and they've been extremely grateful that we haven't, because you've seen a lot of the headlines. DEI has pummeled in film and etc., but it's not apples to apples. So we went back to them and we said, "Well, how do you feel about 2023?" And they said, "Yes, we feel good about 2023." So at the end of this year, we will be releasing our film study for the first time. So I can't answer that question if we held at parity or if there was a slip, but I'll be able to share that information for you later in the year.
Great, and we'll follow up with that. Now, you do a lot of data research on this, and you actually look at 6 major identities. You wanna just name what you go through and how you analyze this data?
Absolutely. So from the beginning, we've always used an intersectional lens. And for us, even though intersectionality by definition is far broader than what we look at, we've always looked at the intersection of gender, race, ethnicity, disability, LGBTQIA, age 50 plus, and body size, and body type. So when we analyze, we always segment those. And then on top of it, we look at, so one thing is who's showing up, right? That addresses who's showing up. The second thing is how are they showing up? So do they have a job? Are they wearing clothes? Are they empowered? Do they have a sense of agency? Are they a damsel in distress? So how are they showing up is the second thing that we always look at.
This research, which you're the only organization doing it, uh, won the Governance Award, if I'm correct, at the 2022 Emmys for Gender in Media, which recognizes what you've done is to make a profound transformation and long-lasting contribution to the arts with all of this data. And so what does this mean to you and Gina and the Institute in terms of going forward? What else do you want to do?
Well, first off, we are a B2B and not a B2C. I am sure you will never see our logo on a box of cereal. We've always targeted the industry versus consumers, knowing that if there is a media landscape that is gender balanced and inclusive, that it will benefit humanity. But we've always targeted the very people that are the solution to the problem. So to be recognized by our colleagues and peers in the television at the Television Academy was really important for us, and had great meaning that they valued our work and our contribution.
So do you see though that the next 5 years there's going to be more changes? And if so, what do you hope they will be?
We've seen a lot of progress when it comes to gender and when it comes to race. However, when we look at the other dimensions in terms of disability and LGBTQIA and older adults and body type, those have moved more glacially. And so we would like to start to see those numbers move more dramatically, as well. So that's one goal over the next 5 years. And also seeing where we can maintain those parity numbers when it does come to gender and race. And then there's other verticals that we've started looking at. So historically, we always looked at global film, global TV, and global advertising. But in the last 5 years, we've looked at global gaming. And as you can imagine, 4 billion people are gaming. And especially if you want to look at youth, gaming is really at the forefront of how youth are spending their time and engaging with content and media. So that's been very important to us as well.
What pushback do you get, if any, from the producers, even directors, or from actors, maybe male actors? You get pushback?
We actually don't, because when you think about it, uh, there's so many characters that may exist in a movie, in TV and film, etc. And we're looking at the whole picture. We're saying take a look at the entire story and how can you infuse more inclusion in it. We're not looking for them to change the story. We're not telling them to kick their leads to the curb. We're not trying to force anything. It has to be organic in the story, but more often than not, there's a huge opportunity to infuse more representation of women and other marginalized communities without changing the authentic voice of the storyteller.
So they see the business case as well, like corporations do. You really have, your viewers. You want to really reflect your viewers, and they're the also the purchasers of the tickets and the streaming. It's the same thing in corporate America. We say is employees, customers, communities, and investors, CEOs, and boards want to reflect all constituents. So you want to do the same thing. It's not pushing anybody aside, it's being more inclusive. And I wanted to also touch on the girls and STEM and racial equity and what the Institute is doing in that space.
Very interesting. So, as I said, we always looked at who's showing up, how are they showing up, does the female character have a job? And what happened was, when President Obama was in office, I believe it was 2008, where he made a statement that in America, we were going to fall behind in the technology revolution because our children were not pursuing STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. There's also STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts and math, etc. And so we thought, oh, that's very interesting. We've always looked at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the 10 major business categories. There's not a category for STEM. So we're just kind of interested in this. And when we did the study many years ago, it was a 15-to-1 ratio of male characters to female characters. And we're very, very blessed that Lyda Hill Philanthropies has been the primary funder of all of this work. Lyda Hill is a unbelievable philanthropist who believes that the world's problems can be solved with science, has been a huge supporter. And we just recently, in February, in honor of February 11th, International Women and Girls in STEM Day, released a new study. And we looked at the representation of women in STEM in film and TV from the past 5 years. And we also included a survey of girls and young women in middle school, high school, and undergraduate to understand their experience. And what we found on the content side, that men in STEM still outnumber women in STEM on screen. We found that 38% of the STEM characters were women. However, we did see a big increase in STEM characters of color, and we saw that 29% of the STEM characters were people of color. And also, we saw in newer films and TV shows that women were shown in more diverse STEM fields. So, where originally, when we did the study, most of the female characters in STEM were doctors, we now have seen a marked increase in female characters being shown as engineers, computer scientists. So we're really excited about that. And what was interesting when we were speaking to girls and doing the survey, 71% of the survey respondents agreed that it was really important to have a female STEM character on screen. And that was a 20% point increase from 2018. They said they enjoy watching movies or TV shows and they wish there were more of them. But what was also interesting is that girls and young women thought that most of the STEM characters on TV were men because the characters who play civil engineers, software developers, etc., are overwhelmingly played by male characters.
Wow, that you what an impact you're making. I applaud both of you and everybody that works with you to really get this data out and make the changes. So, with all this wonderful work that you're doing, what is your hope for your legacy for women in the entertainment industry?
One point is we want to empower our partners with data and tools so that they can be organizationally ready and embed this type of thinking and lens into the work, into the creative work, and be hopefully less dependent on us because we do a lot of private consulting. Number two, that we can hit parity numbers on these other dimensions, and that number three, we just are able to stabilize those numbers. And then number four, for the institute, we'll always continue to measure these various industries, but we would love to be able to find a way to use all of this information for educational purposes. So we have a lot of very big future goals as well as we look at the next 20 years.
Yes, I don't doubt that you're gonna have those great audacious goals, aspirations that, are achievable, but they're gonna be stretch. And so what are your parting words to the audience and what we can do? How can we be helpful in this effort?
Well, aside from donate, we would really appreciate people sharing the information, following us on social media at GeenaDavis.org. We have a free newsletter if people want to learn and read our latest breaking studies. Contact
How
us
do we how do we sign up for that, Madeline? How do we
right
sign
on
up?
our website at
Okay.
cjane.org. And also for your corporate listeners, we love presenting. So we're always happy to present for a BRG or ERG or a Heritage Month at your company, but really just helping us get the word out.
Well, we're gonna help get the word out by certainly distributing this wonderful podcast. Madeline Di Nonno, I have to congratulate you and the Geena Davis Institute for all you're doing and for joining us today and sharing this incredible journey you've been on to really educate everybody about what really is being shown on TV and film and how we need to change that so it's balanced and really showing women and all underrepresented groups because that is our society. And those are the messages that are out there for our young people to see so that they can aspire to be, great leaders in this country, regardless of one's background, zip code, gender, ethnicity, and so forth. So, congratulations to both of you. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Janice. And like I said, we're such big fans of what you're doing to get more women in the C suite and love to partner with you anytime.
We will do more of that. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in to another game changing conversation on Leadership Reimagined with Madeline Di Nonno on Reimagining Hollywood, a journey into gender equality. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or visit our website at elagroup.com. Thank you so much.